It's Gill, Kelley, and Paul Sporer now joining us from Fangraphs and, of course, the Sleeper and the Bust podcast. Paulie, the greatest day of the year, yes? Quadruple header to begin the postseason?
Yes, these playoff quadruple headers are amazing. I can't wait.
All right, let's do these one by one. First of all, I've only made one bet. I just want to get your instant reaction before we go game by game here. I bet a World Series exacta, the Phillies to beat the Astros at 45-1. Your thoughts?
You're going for the repeat. That's not a bad number on it with those two clubs. I definitely don't mind it. Obviously, that something like that is so difficult to land, but I don't hate it.
Okay, I don't hate it.
I know that's not a resounding, that's not a resounding endorsement of it, but it's certainly not bad. It's not the worst matchup or anywhere near the worst matchup I think you could have come up with.
That's how we say sometimes I wouldn't bet that with your money. Yeah. It's I wouldn't bet it with my money. I would bet it with your money though.
Yeah, so it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Yeah. By the way, nice Miggy Cabrera jersey and tribute over your right shoulder. Miguel,
Thank you.
Let us never forget the man had a triple crown in 2012. Let us never forget what a career. By the way, shout out to Brandon Crawford, also ends his career in San Francisco. Okay, first game today, 3:08 Eastern on ABC. It is the 5-4 American League game. Jordan Montgomery going for the Rangers. Tyler Glasnow going for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are minus 155. Texas plus 130 at Fangraphs. Montgomery on the year, 3.20 ERA, but the FIP and the XFIP are a little higher, 3.56 and 4.02, as opposed to Glasnow, whose ERA is 3.53, but the advanced stats are much better, 2.91 FIP, 2.75 XFIP, and the old 33.4% K rate on the season. Rays are also minus 160 on the series price. I'm considering laying the juice here, laying the wood here with Glasnow and the Rays. Your thoughts on this game and this series?
I mean, I certainly get that for the first game here. You got a pitcher advantage with Glasnow. I do wonder if the Rangers are being a little bit slept on because of their stumble to the finish. I think we do it every year with some ball clubs. I mean, you mentioned the Phillies, that you're in on them this year. Remember this time last year, they were being written off as they're going to briefly be in the playoffs. We won't even remember them. And I grant that it took a pretty historically crazy ninth inning there for them to come back in that one game to kind of spur everything. But everything starts over. September does not matter. There are teams that run hot that come in October and fall on their face. There are teams that are running cold that come in and go crazy. And then there are teams on both ends of that too. They stay hot and keep going, or they stay cold. The bottom line is that it's just not an indicator. And that's why I can't get away from Texas completely here. In a way, I actually kind of like the Rays a bit today because I do love Glasnow. But then I think the Rangers can come back and get the next two. I think that they're very much live dogs in this series here. I love that lineup. It's going to come down to that bullpen, right? And that's why they had their September swoon. If that bullpen gets back in check, I think they have every bit of a chance in here. And that's going to be the key. If you believe in those Texas relievers, I think you can lean them pretty easily. If not, then I understand the Rays plays for sure. I'm on the Rays today.
So then, in other words, then if you want to play the Rangers on the series price, wait till after Game 1.
Exactly.
Get a better price on the Rangers. By the way, all of these, again, best of threes. Remember, this is the format that began last year. These are best of threes. Okay, Game 2 is also an American League game. This is on ESPN, 4:38 p.m. Eastern. The 6-3 Toronto at Minnesota. Gausman against Lopez. Kevin Gausman with the 3.16 ERA and advanced stats that more or less match that, the 31.1% K rate. And then Pablo Lopez with a 3.66 ERA. His advanced stats, the FIP and the XFIP anyway, a little better than that. Minnesota not only a minus 115, the slightest of favorites in this game, but also minus 115, slightest of favorites in the series. What do you think about this one? Because I know some smart baseball people who actually think both of these teams are live to go further than this.
I completely agree with that. I do think the winner here is going to be a lot of trouble for the next opponent, which I believe is the Astros. And so they're going to have their hands full with either of these clubs.
Yeah.
I'm on the Twins. I really like them. I'm almost a little annoyed to see them as faves because I feel like they've been kind of like my little pet team for a while here. And now that the Sharps are on them too, like I get it because I'm right there with it. Their pitching is awesome. I really think it's so strong, starting and relief. They're going to bolster their relief with the extra starters that they're going to put in there. Bailey Ober coming out, maybe putting 2-3 innings up at a time is insane. They're going to get their reinforcements back with Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa. Buxton's a coin flip, but he hasn't really been there this year anyway. I really like this Twins team. I like them today. I like them for the series. But I do agree that if the Blue Jays win this series, I will be very much, giving them a very close eye against the Astros in the second series. So I'm not saying that the Jays are going to get steamrolled here, but I am a Twins guy. Not trying to hedge. I'm fully Twins.
Wow. Okay. Then we go to the National League games this afternoon. Again, this will follow the same sequence of games tomorrow in Game 2, same times, same networks. The 6-3 game in the National League. Arizona, the 6th seed, against the NL Central winning Milwaukee Brewers. It's Pfaadt. Is it Pfaadt or Pfaadt? Which is it?
Like I fought, yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt going against Corbin Burns. Burns is a big favorite today, minus 180. Pfaadt is here. I was mentioning earlier that the D-backs pitched Kelley on Saturday, so they're doing this backwards. So Gallen's going to be the Game 2 pitcher. If necessary, Merrill Kelley will be the Game 3 pitcher for the Diamondbacks. So this is the one where they're sort of behind the 8 ball, and I guess you could say the pressure would be on the Brewers here then. But Pfaadt has a 5.72 ERA. Advanced stats is a little better than that, 5.18 and 4.46 when you get to your xFIP. And with Burns, it's all about that BABIP, which he sustained for 2 seasons now. Really fortunate, 244 BABIP, which has muted his ERA. But, of course, the big news in this series is that Brandon Woodruff can't go, which is just awful for the Brewers. Might not be able to go if the Brewers advance past this series, where they are a minus 155 series price. What do you think about this game in this series?
Yeah, I'm so bummed because I actually had them going really long. I'm not getting all the way off of them while Woodruff is important. First off, he's not necessarily out entirely, but, that one guy, even as big as he is, doesn't necessarily submarine their chances, but it definitely stings because the reason I like this team so much is the 3 aces with Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, and that's going to have a leg cut out from under them in this series here, and maybe he comes back after that, but we don't know. I would operate as though he isn't with any bets that you're going to make on the Brewers. It's going to come down to the long ball today. If Pfaadt can keep the ball in the yard, they got a chance. Now, he has not done that very well, and the Brewers do have some guys who can go yard. I do like the Brewers here in the series. Like I said, I like them to make some noise, though not nearly as much as I was going to be had we had this conversation yesterday. I would have been a full-throated endorsement of Milwaukee to not only win this series, but also maybe push all the way to the World Series, because I do like this ball club. But my hopes are a little bit dashed with B. Woody out because he's my favorite of the trio, too.
Yeah, the trio being Peralta being the third in the Burns, Woodruff, Peralta trio, and I guess Wade Miley would be your 4 right now. It would have been Woodruff in game number 2, but now we will see who Milwaukee throws tomorrow. And then the 5-4 game in the NL, the 1 and 2 wild cards. Jesus Luzardo going for the Marlins. Zach Wheeler going for the Phillies. Phillies are minus 162 favorites. Marlins rather, plus 136 on the comeback at DraftKings. Luzardo with the 3.63 ERA. Advanced stats pretty much in line with that. Wheeler, 3.61 ERA. He's got the 5.9 WAR for you WAR fans out there. He led all the majors per Fangraphs in WAR. And Phillies, as I mentioned, on the series price are the biggest favorite in terms of series prices. They're minus 190 with the Marlins coming back at plus 160. Luis Arraez, the first ever back-to-back league to league, American League to National League batting title leader ever. That's awesome. The only other person who's won one in both leagues, DJ LeMahieu, of all people, who won one with the Rockies in 2016 and then in the pandemic year with the Yankees in 2020. But Arraez, the first one to do one back-to-back years. What do you think about this game in series?
Don't let the Marlins hat fool you here. That was more Miggy tribute as well because, of course, that's where he started his career. I do like this Marlins scrappy club, and the Burger Bell pickups were really nice, but I'm just not sure that they've got enough run scoring to stay with this Phillies team, and the Phillies have better pitching, going in than I thought they did last year when again, they were a bit of an afterthought. So I'm just not sure the Marlins can get there. Now, listen, the Marlins don't lose in the playoffs. I know they lost after beating the Cubs in 2020, but, in full real seasons, they don't lose in the playoffs. Of course, those other teams have no bearing on this one. I think they're a more live dog than the number states, but if they lose, that doesn't really matter, right? You don't get a payout for a close loss, and so I totally understand where everyone's going with the Phillies here. I think the Marlins get at least one, and if it's the first one, I like they could pull the upset, but I don't think in my heart of hearts, as Kelley said earlier, I don't think I would necessarily bet it with your money or my money to go on the Marlins. I think I'm probably just staying off of it because I am a little bit nervous about Philly. But if I'm going anywhere, I think I gotta go.
Okay, so favorite side today is
Twins.
Twins. Favorite series price is
Well, if the Brewers went down after losing Woodruff, I would still jump on that.
Okay. All right. Paul Sporer, everybody. Thank you, Paulie. Appreciate it. Enjoy
Thanks,
today.
guys.
Mark Borchard joins us from an undisclosed location somewhere in the desert. You can follow him at BaseWinner, basewinner.com, BaseWinnerPod, BetUS podcast, which he does with Jason Weingarten. How you doing, Mark?
Doing really good, Gill. This is probably the funnest day of the year.
It really is,
doesn't
man.
get any better.
Does not get better. I believe it was the old Milwaukee beer back in the day that said, don't get no better than this.
Oh, I love a nice old Milwaukee.
Old Milwaukee. All right, let's do them one by one. Game 1 today, chronologically, Texas at Tampa. Montgomery against Glasnow. The Rays are minus 155 in the game. They're minus 160 on the series. Texas plus 130 in Game 1, plus 135 on the series. So very similar series prices to the Game 1 price. What do you think about this game? What do you think about this series, Mark? Let's start with this one.
Okay, well, it's an interesting game because it's the old adage. The soccer analysts do this. The unstoppable force versus the immovable object. And by my ratings, the unstoppable force is Texas, and the immovable object is Tyler Glasnow and the Tampa Bay bullpen. Now, the way I have it priced is right at market at minus 142. And the way I I don't think I'm going to play any series games, particularly today. There's too many conflicting things to me. But what I did, Gil, with this was I went with Texas and Toronto in a run scored for series parlays. It's a little bit exotic, but one of the teams is over 6.5 and the other is over 5.5. Texas is over 6.5 and Toronto's over 5.5 series runs. Basically, it's even money. I think maybe laying a little bit. You can get these odds at BetUS, who I'm doing a show for after this, if you want more details about it. And that's about even money. So I think, to me, that's probably the best thing that I've seen of all of these wild card series. I'm not as bullish on this wild card, accumulation of games or whatever, the way it's set up as I was last year. I really liked Philly last year. I really liked Seattle last year. And I just don't have that kind of feeling about really anybody. So I had to go to, this is kind of my best play for these the way to handle a series, Gil.
Okay, so let's repeat what that is. That's a parlay, which is, of course, on brand for Mark Borchard, over total runs in the series, team total runs, if you will, on the series, whether that's 2 games or 3 games for Texas and Toronto. And what is it, 5.5, 6.5, Texas and Toronto? Or 6.5?
6.5.
6.5, 5.5.
6.5 for Texas, 5.5 for Toronto. And one of the other things that I think is important in this to mention is that I think these games are going to go 3 games. I think these series are going to go 3 games.
All of them.
The Rangers and the Blue Jays.
Okay.
And that kind of factors into that overruns total.
Yes.
The Rangers have had 8 3-game series versus teams with a greater than 500 win percentage, and they only lost the first 2 of those series 1 out of 8 times. So. And then the Blue Jays, same idea, 1 out of 14 times. So I just think from a math standpoint, if you just look at that, I think that really helps this bet out as well.
Yeah, well, it should be correlated. If you think they're going 3 games, then the over on those team totals makes a lot of sense. And so no real bets on the 2 National League wild card series then?
Not playing anything.
Yeah,
I'm not playing anything series. I'm not even playing anything games. I can tell you how I modeled them. And I'm showing, and this is why I'm not doing anything, because I'm showing value with the Marlins, believe it or not, today and on the series.
Ooh.
And I really like this Philly bullpen. I think that the home field advantage in Philly makes a huge difference. And really, Gil, I think this, maybe you could touch upon this with your Redskins. I want the Phillies to win. I don't really want to make a play on the Marlins. But by the math, the Marlins are probably the value here. I'm not going to play it personally.
Yeah, I never let that stop me from betting against the old Washington Skins, that's for sure. Okay, then let's go beyond this. Let's go to pennants. Let's go to the World Series itself. Obviously, laying in weight in the American League are the Orioles and the Astros, the number 1 and 2 seeds. And in the National League, it's the Braves and the Dodgers. Have you made any pennant or World Series bets?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that either. I really have never been a guy who bets the futures. I like to bet more in-game stuff. And I think right now, with all the value that you have, with all the prop bettings and stuff, that's where to go. And having said that, there's a prop that I really like that I'm actually making a play, putting out this play officially, as they say. And it's Pache for the Phillies and Jace Peterson for the D-backs to go under runs plus RBIs. You can play them straight. I put them in a parlay because that's just what I do, Gill, base winner parlay. And I know people love that. And that pays plus 150. So I think that that's the way of the future, Gill. And I've been fooling around with this runs plus RBIs market, and I've been able to price this. And so there's value the way I'm pricing this today. And Peterson's about minus 180, and you can get this at Prop Builder, and I've got him, or he should be minus 242, and then Pache's about minus 160, and he should be like minus 200. So I think that to not get a run plus RBI, and I think that that's really the wave of the future, Gill.
All right, repeat that bet for everybody who might have missed it one more time.
Pache from the Phillies under a half run plus RBI, and pair him, or you can play him straight. You can do both with Jace Peterson from the, I want to say the Brewers because he played on the Brewers, but from the D-backs, same bet.
Okay.
Under half run plus RBI, Gill.
So that's a betting against human achievement parlay bet from young Mark Borchard. Okay, interesting. If I said, all right, Mark, one of these dogs, and obviously in the Toronto-Minnesota series, Toronto is minus 105, so they're the slightest of dogs. But Texas, Toronto, Arizona, Miami, if I said to you, two of these teams got through, you would guess that those two teams would be?
Miami and the Blue Jays.
Miami and the Blue Jays. Okay. Who is the livest of all these 8 teams that exist here? Who is the most live to beat the respective 1 or 2 seeds?
That's a really good question. And having said that, I would say it's probably Tampa Bay, Gill, and I'm kind of playing a little bit against them, but not really. It's just a numbers bet.
Mm-hmm.
This Tampa Bay pitching is just insane. You look at Glass now, 34% strikeout percentage, last 150. You look at Eflin, he's at 30.9, and then you look at Savali, it's at 34%. We mentioned last week on the show the triple X ERA, swinging strike percentage, balls divided by pitches. They're number 1 in baseball, and so I think that if you're gonna look for a team, they definitely have the best pitching around. And so, as much as it kind of conflicts with my series bet with the Rangers, they have the pitching to get it done versus really good teams. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, Tampa Bay would take on the Orioles in the division round if they were to advance past the Texas Rangers.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.